Nature loves courage. You make the commitment and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. Terence McKenna. The financial system is about to be flipped upside down. Please keep your friends and family aware. Like, subscribe, share these videos.
It is more exciting than it was 3 years ago when I got a call from a headhunter to see if I wanted to join the board of Ripple. And only 3 years ago, I said, I have zero interest in that world. I don't understand it. And it's as Jamie Dimon said, who's my contemporary. I went to business school with him, actually. I kind of agreed with what he said 3 years ago. So 3 years later, I think it was Sarah that said, this is one of the biggest revolutions, paradigm shifts. Those kind of things don't happen overnight. So it's a false choice to say it's either the current exchanges that process in nanoseconds, millions of trades, or this thing. To me, the right way to look at it is, if you accept the fact, it is a revolution that involves both the technology and the cryptocurrency, the digital currency, that, as Chris Larsen, the founder of Ripple, says, the internet took a decade basically to have transfer of information, transfer of knowledge. You're talking about transfer of value. So it's huge. It will have a lot of bumps on the road, but it is unequivocal. It will change a lot of things.
The Ripple board member, Zoe Cruz, that went to business school with Jamie Dimon, Forbes named Zoe the most powerful woman, and was co-president for institutional securities and wealth management at Morgan Stanley, is telling us that this is a revolution. This is a paradigm shift. Transfer of value is huge. It will have bumps in the road, but it's unequivocal. It will change a lot of things. The definition of unequivocal is leaving no doubt, unambiguous. It's crystal clear. This is a paradigm shift.
And the way I look at this is, I'm old enough to say I joined Morgan Stanley right out of business school in the early 80s. It was a private company. It was 2,000 people. When I left in 2007, it was 60,000 people, and it had offices everywhere. So that was a huge revolution, the one that said finance was globalizing, where you were putting users of capital with providers of capital in the global arena. That was huge. So to me, it's not going to take 20 years for this new thing to really cement itself, but it is beginning to disintermediate, to me, as all disruptions happen, from the bottom. And what I mean by that is, of the 7+ billion human beings in the world, over half of them are either underbanked or unbanked. So you're talking about the traditional finance that you're talking about. It works perfectly well, by the way. If you're Morgan Stanley wanting to send $1 billion to Citigroup, it happens instantaneously. And the Swift messaging system, or Swift 2.0, is perfect. So that's the correspondent banking system. If you're an SME in Nigeria, not so good. So this actually decentralized finance is banking the underbanked. It's giving access to the global financial system to the people that nobody has an interest in serving at the moment.
There are a few behemoth megabanks that control all cross-border settlements. There are thousands of small banks that pay outrageous fees to use the megabank settlement services. Ripple offers products to the smaller banks that will let them settle for cheap. There is a crisis situation, and this exposes the cracks of the megabanks, or the too big to fails. Ripple is offering a solution that takes power out of the too big to fails and puts it into the rest of the banking world, the smaller banks.
Is to make sure there's technology and standards, including open source work that we're providing through the financial switch, which is called MOJALOOP, and through the digital identity system, which is extremely valuable, not just for financial activities, but for health and voting and education, and that's called MOSIP. And for both of those projects, we're a major funder. We have a lot of great partners. And what we're going to see is a number of countries rolling out the payment switch and the identity system based on these open source technologies and be able to catch up with what India and others have done with huge benefits to the poorest, including government benefit programs, being able to get to them in a far more efficient way than ever before, which was illustrated during the pandemic.
The richest, most powerful people of the world share an ideology. They have a goal. They have all the wealth. They have all the power. The super elites share this information out in the open. They want an inclusive economy that everyone can participate in. I believe it's for sinister motives. However, you can believe what you want to. The facts don't change. They are out in the open praising a digital, green, inclusive future. Ripple gifted the world Interledger Protocol, an open source project that MOJALOOP uses. MOJALOOP, the Bill Gates-backed project that is bringing a level playing field to Africa and developing nations.
But as importantly, when I look at traditional finance, it exploded in terms of positively, if you will, because you had a BIS, you had global institutions with global principle-based regulatory frameworks. So what Perianne said about XRP versus Bitcoin, it's really a US issue. In the UK, we're viewed as XRP is viewed as a cryptocurrency, in Asia as well. And so for me, the real focus for the industry should be, and that's early stages, I'm trying to find willing participants in this dialogue. How can we create the BIS equivalent, the principle-based global framework? Because if you're going to talk about cross-border payments, you need that global framework to work.
The central banks of this world are on a mission. They're worried about deflation or are fighting it with inflation. If hyperinflation takes hold, we have less purchasing power and the tax laws are written in nominal values, meaning we might need to be a millionaire to buy a loaf of bread, and you'll be paying millionaire taxes. Use the system on itself. I Trust Capital offers IRAs in crypto and precious metals. The U.S. government allows us $6,000 a year to invest in IRAs that have the tax incentives. I Trust is a tool. I suggest everyone take a look at the services I Trust has to offer. The link is in the description below. The G20 nations are working diligently on regulations. We have seen progress in England, Singapore, Switzerland, Japan. These nations are defining crypto assets and building the necessary rails for crypto to transact. Nations are updating their legacy software. The US is a superpower, strongest military, richest nation. However, the rest of the world is updated. Will Jay Clayton be able to stall the whole world? The answer is no. The United States is not being left behind.
Action concerns cross-border payments. It has been well documented that there are significant challenges with cross-border payments. These include high cost, slow speed, limited access, and transparency, as well as various frictions like adherence to compliance requirements, lack of interoperability, and outdated technology platforms. Following a call from the Saudi presidency, the G20 therefore asked the FSB, in coordination with the newly formed Cross-Border Payments Coordination Group, along with international organizations and standard-setting bodies, to develop a roadmap for enhancing cross-border payment arrangements globally. The roadmap was completed in 3 stages. Stage 1 comprised an assessment of existing arrangements, including challenges and frictions. Stage 2 targeted the development of building blocks aimed at improving global cross-border payment arrangements. And Stage 3 on actions and milestones to pave the way forward. 19 programs called building blocks were identified to address the challenges, issues, and frictions that may exist.
As Zoe stated, the rest of the world is moving forward. The issues that the U.S. has is just that, a U.S. problem. The G20 is preparing its frameworks for a global stablecoin. The global stablecoin is a placeholder. The world gets to write their laws with this fictional stablecoin. The reality is, there is not enough time to develop a stablecoin. We'll be forced to adopt a solution from the private sector.
The reason this whole world is being repriced parabolically higher is, again, the macro context, where journalists call me and they say, you've seen this movie before. And I say, no, actually, I've never seen this movie before, unless you're alive in the 20s and 30s. None of us have seen this movie before. And what I mean by that is we're now printing $1 trillion a month practically. So it's the macro context where the hurdle rate for investments is gone to zero. That's the hurdle rate. And so by definition, if you're investing in moonshot opportunities is 10x versus you lose some money. That's what VC investing is all about. And I think that's where we are. There is enormous amounts of money looking for a home. And they say, it's not zero, the possibility I lose all my money, because it could be all of the regulators get together and they outlaw this. I don't think that's the case, but it's not zero. But I could make 10x, 100x. So I think the value of those networks, which will succeed. I don't know if the current top players, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, are the Netscapes or the MySpace or the Facebook or Google. But one of them will be, and the other one will be the other side. So that's why I think you have to superimpose the construct that Sarah described so well within the macro context, why this is a feeding frenzy.
Central bankers are Keynesian economists, and their goal is simple: inflation. Central bank digital currencies are a new tool that gives them more control and will let them inflate even further. Negative interest rates are possible with central bank digital currencies. In a world of central bank digital currencies, there is going to be gaps, and the private sector is going to fill those gaps. Interoperability is one of the largest gaps, and as we saw with MOJALOOP, Ripple is working on filling it.
No one really knows what's going to happen with the introduction of a U.S. digital dollar, other central bank digital currencies, and the continued growth of the cryptocurrency marketplace. The key difference I see between something like a U.S. digital dollar and something like Bitcoin, it's not the technology, it's the monetary policy. And the reason why investors are buying Bitcoin and other digital assets today is because of it's operating as a store of value. Like what Ms. Cruz said, Bitcoin is an expression of digital gold. Where I think this is going is that you'll have Bitcoin as the foundational layer and central bank digital currencies being the transactional layer. But we have a long way to go in continuing to evolve the international financial and monetary system. But one of the things that I think is going to be key for central bank digital currencies to be successful is that they will be interoperable with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, like ETH, like XRP. So individuals have the option to go between different monetary policies based on what they're using it for.
The system is transforming. The self-proclaimed financial gurus tell us that the system is going to implode. The central banks will be forced back to a gold standard. I own gold, and this is certainly a real possibility. But I'm going to take the central bankers and the politicians at their word. They're going to inflate away any problem that arises. They're going to innovate so they can inflate even more.
But sending money is more involved than sending texts. It will require technology standards between digital monies, mutual regulatory and legal treatments, and ID systems that are trusted across borders. The Financial Stability Board, with our support, recently offered a roadmap to enhance cross-border payments. But much work lies ahead to implement it. Cooperation is also key to address spillovers. As digital money becomes more widespread, effects will ripple around the world. These include domestic currencies being swapped for more enticing foreign currencies, reduced monetary policy effectiveness, and circumvention of capital account restrictions. Spillovers can be even more far-reaching. Under some conditions, new digital money can affect the international monetary system. The nations of the world created the IMF to help them guide the international monetary system and make it an engine of growth for everyone.
Everyone will have a global identity. Your financial records, health information, driving record, every bit of information the state has will be placed on blockchains and linked to a digital identity. The good that blockchain offers will be balanced with control from the state. We are entering a new world, a paradigm shift. We have the money, the power, the medical understanding, the scientific know-how, the love in the community to produce a kind of human paradise. But we are led by the least among us, the least intelligent, the least noble, the least visionary. We are led by the least among us, and we do not fight back against the dehumanizing values that are handed down as control icons. Terrence McKenna. If you enjoy my work, please consider joining my Patreon. My videos are on a day early, as well as my crypto research. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Remember to hit the bell.